Scottie Pippen jumped in. Scottie Pippen with a very tumultuous interview in GQ. We talked about his comments about KD earlier. This is what he said about Ben Simmons. You all know he can't shoot. You all know he don't look to shoot in the fourth quarter. You know he's afraid to go to the foul line. He doesn't want to be humiliated. I'm not against Ben Simmons, but I think he is who he is. I watch a lot of games that Doc shouldn't have had him in the fourth quarter. This kid has been this way the whole time, and Doc brought him in and set him up for failure. This to me is such an interesting topic. And so, PJ, I'll come back to you again as one who has coached a million games in your career. You've got a star caliber player like Simmons, who not only is paid like a star, but genuinely is a star. He was an all-star this year. The idea of not having him in the game in the fourth quarter, I can understand the coach thinking, I have to have him out there. But what Scottie Pippen is saying is true. You can't throw him the ball for fear that he'll get fouled. So when you hear the criticism maybe of Doc here, what do you think?
Too extreme. Take him out for a big possession, maybe for a couple of possessions if you can substitute offense, defense. He does too many other things. He's not a good defender. He's a great defender. He rebounds. He will push the fast break. He's still got a bunch of assists right there in the game. There's no question about that. You can't keep him out for a quarter. I hope that's out of context. I don't think Pip was really advocating that. And Doc Rivers knows exactly what he's doing. That was in no textbook. That's not in basketball 101. That was advanced. How do you handle a situation like the Ben Simmons situation when he didn't want any part of the ball? So I disagree with Pip.
But when you've got a player, Tim, whose confidence is so obviously shaken in the way Simmons is, you know, there's two ways I can imagine doing it. When a shooter is missing, you say you just keep shooting. You were a shooter, you know that mentality. Simmons obviously is the opposite of that. So what do you think? What do you think of the way the thing was handled, of the criticism from Pippen, and where it goes from here?
Here's the problem. Where else are you going to go if you're Doc Rivers? I mean, that's the bottom line. This is a guy that you've watched all year. You know what he's capable of doing at times. Now, look, clearly, when you don't take a shot in 5 fourth quarters out of 7 games, I mean, Doc Rivers, by the time you got, halfway through that series, you got an issue with Ben Simmons late in the game offensively. The problem is, where are you going to go? This is not the deepest team in the league, and you still have a guy that you're thinking he can make plays for other people. I need him out here to guard Trae Young. You go back to the one game when they blew the 26-point lead at home. I was in the building when that happened. And Ben Simmons is taken out of the game with 3.5 minutes to go, and they still are in control of the game. They take him out because the Hawks are fouling him intentionally at the time. Well, here's the problem. You take him out of the game. On the next offensive possession, they turned the ball over, and now he's not on the floor for live action as they go the other way to guard Trae Young, who bangs out a 3. So that's the problem with removing him from the game in that situation. You needed him to guard Trae Young, and they did a really good job defensively on Trae Young for most of that series. So that's where they're at right now. I will say this, though. This has gotten so bad with his issues on the other end of the floor offensively. It's the first time since he's been there that all those other things don't outweigh this anymore. This has now become a deflating issue for his teammates, for his other star player, probably for his head coach. And it's the first time I have felt that way about Ben Simmons since he's been there. We always talk about how he does so many other things to win. That's true. But right now, this is demoralizing to his teammates because of this issue. For me, it's more than mechanics in the offseason. He needs to see a sports psychologist. He has a fear of failure that he has to unlock, because until he does that, you're going to see the same issues out of him offensively, where he is avoiding situations where he has to be an offensive player. It's the last thing on his mind, shooting a basketball in certain moments, and that can't be. You can't be successful when you're not proactive as a shooter. It cannot be an afterthought, and that's where he's at right now. He needs a sports psychologist in addition to mechanics, both of those things right now, because this has become a situation where his team has lost faith in him.
Go ahead,
There's also spin here. Remember the quotes right after the game from Doc and from Joel Embiid? Now it's, we like him, we're going to make it work. If he stays there, obviously they got to take that tact. And guess what? We like him a lot. So you want to offer us something for a trade, it better be good. Don't read back into what we said right after the game about him. There's a little spin coming right now.
No, I'm with that. I think the story of Ben Simmons will be the story of this NBA offseason. In the meantime, one other thing. Tim Legler and I got this on my radio show yesterday, and I wanted to bring it up here because many of us who've watched the NBA a long time thought of it. That moment is the signature moment there from Trae Young of Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Had a moment before the defense arrived, and so does the little shoulder shimmy, kind of rubbing it in the face of the defense before he knocks down that three. And look, he was brilliant. He scored 48 points in that Game 1. He's a brilliant player. But I'm looking at the face of Bart Scott. I'm trying to think. Tim Legler, the league you played in the 90s, if he did that in the middle of a play, what would have happened on an ensuing possession?
Well, listen, there's no question he's being laid out. There's no doubt about it. He's going to be headhunted on a screen where somebody's trying to take him out. If he gets anywhere near that lane. He throws that floater up. They're not even concerned about the ball. They're going right through his chest in that era. But unfortunately, that era's gone. And not just from a mentality standpoint of the personnel on the court, because obviously we could bring up a lot of teams from the 90s, not just the Knicks. I mean, the Heat were like that. The Pacers were like that. The Pistons, you name it. There were teams like that. You just can't do it anymore. Guys are going to get flagrant twos. They're going to get tossed. And now you've really affected your team going forward. And that's why you just can't address it in that way. And that's why this guy's so comfortable. He might as well be playing in pajamas right now. That's how comfortable Trae Young is on the court.
And so when I brought this up, and the mic check, I want to give credit to Bart Scott. I brought this up in our microphone checks this morning to Bart Scott. And Bart made an interesting point about Giannis and the Bucks.
Yeah, Giannis is too nice of a superstar. Until he gets angry and decides to be aggressive and not be the good guy and become the villain, he'll never win a championship. What in the John Chaney is going on? Are you serious? This dude hit you with the Harlem Shake before he shoots a three-pointer? I mean, where's P.J. Tucker at? And you talk about the league has changed. Did you not see Patrick Beverly strategically put his dreadlocks in Devin Booker's nose? Like, you can still get it done here. Like, you just got to set him up. Where's the Brook Lopez hard screen set with the elbow out? They got to bruise him up a little bit or they're toast.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.